Well, good morning, everybody. I call the March 22nd Finance meeting to order. I am going to ask that we have Member DeCiani who's requesting to participate remotely. So pursuant to Section 7A of the Open Meetings Act, if a quorum of the members of a public body is physically present, as required by Section 2.01, the majority of the public body may allow a member of that public body to attend the meeting by other means if the member is prevented from physically attending because of, and Member DeCiani has employment purposes. So is there a motion to allow, I have a motion by Member Desart. Do I have a second? Second by Member Ozog. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, welcome Member DeCiani. And can we have a roll call?
Thank you, everybody.
Right. Member Chaplin.
Here.
Member Chavez. Member Covert. Member Desart. Member DeCiani.
Here.
Member Eckhoff. Member Garcia.
Here.
Member Hart. Member Krajewski. Member LaPlante. Member Ozog. Member Pochalski. Member Renahan. Member Rutledge.
Here.
Member Schwarzy. Member Selman. Member Tornatori. And Member Zay.
Great, we have a quorum. And we have no presentations this morning. Do we have any public comment? No public comment. We move on to Chairwoman's remarks. So good morning, everyone. I just want to remind everybody that closed captioning is on today. So please remember when you're not speaking to turn your mics off. And I want to thank the board members, both Democrat and Republicans, who signed on to the letter in support of Ukraine. And I hope that you all received the thank you from Mr. Jurasco. When Mr. Jurasco was here a few weeks ago, he presented a Ukrainian flag to the county. So some board members were thinking, you know, it might be really nice to be able to fly a Ukrainian flag on the county campus. So right now staff is reviewing options for us. So we look forward to hopefully having the Ukrainian flag flying somewhere on our campus in the very near future. Yes. Okay. And also on today's agenda under finance item 8.2a, you'll find a recommendation for the approval of a contract to Ask Reply, doing business as B2G Now for professional software services for the finance department. I'm very pleased to see this item on the agenda, as it will allow the county to track, document, and report on minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses performing work on department projects, either as contractors or subcontractors. This is something I know Member Renahan has been requesting for quite some time, and others have also. The software will allow the county to also be in compliance with House Bill 453, in which taxing districts with property tax levies of more than 5 million are to make a good faith effort to collect and electronically publish data on whether its vendors and subcontractors are minority-owned, women-owned, veteran-owned, or small businesses. So I want to thank our staff, especially Anthony McPherson and Jeff Martinowitz, and also thank our Inclusion and Diversity Committee who worked on this very important issue. So with that, we will move on to approval of minutes. Can I have a motion on the minutes of the regular finance meeting, March 8th, 2022? I have a motion by Member Ozog and a second by Member Rutledge. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. We move on to budget transfers. Can I have a motion on FIR 015622, budget transfers from March 22nd, 22 from various companies and accounting units?
So moved.
I'm sorry, who was the first mover? Oh, we have a motion by Member Garcia and a second by Member Ozog. Okay, any discussion? Member Desart?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question, page 25. It looks like the cost of collective bargaining was $17,446 more than anticipated or budgeted for. I'm wondering, number one, is this correct? And number two, it's for Rock Fusco. But then on page 36, it says the original contract for the collective bargaining was $190,000. So it was a change order of minus 8.22%. So those two pages, pages 25 and page 36, counteract each other. Is there somebody who could answer that question?
Yeah,
Hi,
Come
Margaret.
come on up, Margaret.
Good morning, Margaret.
Good morning, Margaret. Thanks for coming up.
The item that's on the agenda is the close of the old contract. So if we don't spend all of those funds, we have to reverse and close out. And then he has a new contract that started. So whenever we budget money for collective bargaining, it's always an estimate because you can never anticipate just what the cost is going to be. So that was left over from the old contract that we closed out. And so we've started a new one.
Okay, thank you. So the contract for the collective bargaining that we just passed 2 weeks ago was under budget.
Well, that's the new one, this one that we just closed out. So we have to start a new one once the term ends. You have to, if there's money left over, finance requires that we close that one out. We don't just carry that money over.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. Okay, also on page 34, could someone explain a seized vehicle that has become suitable for use? Company 1300, $15,000 for automotive equipment.
Do we have anybody on from the sheriff's department this morning?
Good morning. I was having some issues with the camera. This is Eddie Moore. That was a vehicle we were able to seize during one of our operations with our tactical team. We looked at the payoff on the vehicle. It was well within reason for us to be able to afford. The vehicle was worth just under $30,000 and was $15,000 for us to clear it out. We will now put that vehicle back in service in our detective division.
Thank you, Eddie, for being here. What does $15,000 to clear it out mean?
To pay it off from the bank.
Okay, to pay it off from the bank. It was a seized vehicle, but the sheriff's department still has to pay it off in the bank?
Correct. If we're going to if we would like to have the vehicle and use it in our department, we'll need to pay off the balance at the bank, which was roughly $15,000.
Okay, and then did I hear you say you're not going to use it or put it into service? So then the sheriff's department sells it, is that correct?
No. We will be putting it into service just as soon as we collect the title. We will put it into service and it will probably be assigned to one of the detectives.
Okay, thank you. It was hard to hear you. Thank you, Eddie. I appreciate it.
No problem.
And thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. We move on to procurement requisitions, finance, and in Member Krajewski's place, we will have Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on change order decrease and close PO 5005-001 Human Resources Department.
I have a motion by Member Zay, a second by Member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Zay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIP 9622, recommendation approval of the contract to ask reply. B2G now for professional software service or finance, amount of $232,536,000 partial ARPA item.
The motion by Member Zay, a second by Member Renahan. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Zay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Move on FIP 10522, approval of contract issued to Tribune Publishing Company for mandatory printing of election notices. The amount not to exceed $180,000 per lowest responsible bid.
I have a motion by Member Zay. Is there a second? Second by Member Tornatori. Any discussion? Yes.
Is this the only newspaper contract that we have to have or do we have to do others? Is this the only requirement?
Is this the only requirement? Well,
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's required. And
So it's
yes,
required that we do it in one publication.
It's required that we do a publication, but only
Okay.
one is necessary.
Okay, great. Thank you.
very much. Okay. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Member Zay. We move on to economic development, and Member Chavez is not here, so Member Renahan, are you who's Vice Chair of Economic? Oh, I'm sorry, Member Selman.
Thank you. I move EDCO 9-22, a recommendation for the approval of an amendment to purchase order 2819-1 serve for a contract issued to AT&T for the purchase of telecom services for the workforce division or workforce development division. Contract from March 31st, 2020 or ends March 31st, 2023 for an increase in $3,000 for a total of $35,000.
I have a motion by member Selman, a second by member Covert. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Selman. We move on to Judicial Public Safety, member Renahan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. I move approval of change order, recommendation for approval amendment to resolution JPSP 10-20. This is change order amending purchase order 4319-1, contract with Allied Universal Security Services.
Second.
This is for Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, an increase of $75,819.85.
I have a motion by member Renahan, a second by member Ozak. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Renahan.
I move approval of JPSP 92-22, recommendation for approval of a contract purchase order to Flock Safety. This is for 35 cameras to facilitate automatic license plate detection throughout the county, March 22nd, 2022 through March 21st, 2025, not to exceed $262,500 for the sheriff's office.
I have a motion by member Renahan, a second by member Covert. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Member Renahan.
I move approval of JPSP 93-22, recommendation for approval of contract to Trinity Services Group for inmate and officer meals
Second.
for the jail, May 1st, 2022 through April 30th, 2023, not to exceed $584,182.50. This is for the sheriff's office.
I have a motion by member Renahan, a second by member Ozag. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Renahan.
Thank you. I move to combine items 8A, C, 4, 5, 6, and 7. These are all IGAs with the sheriff for township police services dated April 1st, 2022 through March 31st, 2023.
I have a motion by member Renahan, a second by member Shorzy to combine items 4, 5, 6, and 7 under Judicial Public Safety. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Member Renahan.
Great, thank you. I move approval of JPSR 12722, resolution IGA with York Township for Police Services, JPSR 12822, resolution IGA agreement with Wayne Township for Police Services. I'm sorry, both of those amounts are $130,678.63. Move approval of JPSR 12922, resolution IGA with Bloomingdale Township for Police Services, $130,678.63. And I move approval of JPSR 13022. This is also an IGA. This is Milton Township Police Services, $392,035.90. All the same dates.
I have a motion by member Renahan and a second by member Garcia to approve items 4, 5, 6, and 7 under JPS. Any discussion on any of these? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Renahan. We move on to Public Works, member Ozak.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move for approval of FMP 010122, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Hill Mechanical Corporation to provide and install a domestic water heater at the power plant that serves the DuPage County Care Center for Facilities Management for the period March 23rd, 2022 through November 30th, 2022, for a contract total amount not to exceed $134,385.55 per lowest responsible bid, CDBG funded.
I have a motion by member Ozag, a second by member Desart, and member Rutledge. Go ahead,
Thank
please.
you, Chairman Chaplin. I'm just curious what a domestic water heater is. I want that for my own personal knowledge.
Domestic water heater. Welcome, Nick.
Pretty sure it might be a little bit too big for your house, but the care center, like the jail, is some of our biggest water users with the showers, the laundry, and they have a separate standalone domestic water heater in order to meet the requirements for the temperature of the water. And so the one that we have right now in the power plant is old and at risk of failing, and this gives us the opportunity to replace that. It's more efficient. It's going to be a lot more effective.
So is it a tank type or is it
Yeah.
an on-demand system? or-
I think it's a on-demand type of system
Okay.
because we have our own water that comes from from Wheaton, and then we heat it and then send it in there.
All right, thanks. Just curiosity.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Ozog.
Thank you. I move for approval of FMP 010222, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Gerke Technology Group to furnish and deliver water treatment chemicals as needed for campus facilities for facilities management for the period March 23, 2022 through March 22, 2023 for a contract total amount not to exceed $35,000 per lowest responsible bid.
I have a motion by member Ozog, a second by member Garcia. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Ozog.
Thank you. I move for approval of FMP 010322, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Door Systems ASSA Abloy US Incorporated for preventative maintenance and repair services for automatic and manual doors with threshold closers as needed for county facilities for facilities management for a 2-year period, April 1st, 2022 through March 31st, 2024, for a contract total not to exceed $60,780 per lowest responsible bid.
I have a motion by member Ozog, a second by member Garcia. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Ozog.
Thank you. I move for approval of FMP 010422, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Yola Power LLC to provide uninterrupted power supply, UPS, preventative maintenance and on-call emergency repair service as needed for facilities management and the emergency telephone system board for the period April 1st, 2022 through March 31st, 2023 for a total contract amount not to exceed $35,655 per renewal option under bid award 19002 FM, third and final option to renew.
I have a motion by member Ozog, a second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Ozog. We
Thank
move
you.
on to transportation with member Pachowski.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I move to approve change order DTR 0318A-19, amendment to a resolution issued to Mead Electric for the traffic signal street light program to decrease the funding $145,427.86 and close, resulting in a final county cost of $2,952,231.79, a decrease of 4.69%.
I have a motion by member Pachowski, a second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Pachowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to approve change order DTR 0171A-21, amendment to a resolution issued to Precision Pavement Marking, Inc. for the 2021 pavement marking maintenance program to decrease the funding $37,130.40 and close with a county cost of $384,760.60, a decrease of 8.8%.
Okay, I have a motion by member Pachowski, a second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Pachowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to approve DTCO 0010-22, amendment to a contract purchase order 5227 issued to Precise MRM LLC for fleet tracking equipment and service agreement for Division of Transportation to increase the funding $5,000, resulting in an amended contract of $29,000, increase of 20.83%.
I have a motion by member Pachowski, a second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Move to approve DTP 0094-22, recommendation of approval of contract.
Second.
Christopher Burke Engineering Limited for professional phase 1 engineering services, part A, for improvements along the east branch of the DuPage River Trail from St. Charles to the Illinois Parade Path for a contract not to exceed $206,509.91.
I have a motion by member Pachowski, a second by member Ozog. Any discussion? Member Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to express that there is a great deal of community support for this project, and it's been talked about for probably 20 years at this point. And I'm very excited to see this first phase of engineering money approved. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, member Ozog. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Pachowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Move to approve DTR 0070-22, a resolution for our comprehensive road improvement plan adoption for impact fees in connection with amending the county's fair share road improvement impact fee ordinance ODT-021S-89.
I have a motion by member Pachowski, a second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion Motion carries. Member Pachowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to approve DTR 0131-22 and awarding resolution to Geneva
Second.
Construction Company for the DuPage County Fairgrounds parking lot improvements for an estimated county cost of $142,960.14 per low bid.
I have a motion by Member Pachowski, a second by Member Ozag. I see discussion, Member Ozag, and then Member Eckhoff. Member Ozag?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank the clerk's office for looking for this money from the state. We're going to be reimbursed for the total amount, and this will definitely help early voting and the fairgrounds as well. So it'll be wonderful to have this parking lot paved.
Yes, thank you for your comments. Member Eckhoff?
Yeah.
I just had a couple questions. How many new parking spots we're gonna get for this?
Does anybody know how many new parking spots? Chris, are you on?
I thought it was just repaid.
Yeah. Oh.
Just repaving the existing?
Yes.
I thought there was some plan to pave over the grassy area.
So this grant was very specific. This is Chris Snyder. This was very specific to essentially resurfacing, repaving entirely, just the existing asphalt areas. That's what was submitted for the grant. And so that's what we're limiting this effort to. I do recall there's been discussions with the fairgrounds to expand it at some future date, but that's going to require a little bit more work, including stormwater permitting.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna do that for the Rib Fest, but we're repaving the surface parking lot that's on the east side of the Circle Road. I thought we just did the rest of it 2 years ago.
This is the main entrance that would be off of Manchester, and I don't know the name of the buildings. The main exhibit hall would be to the east of the main exhibit hall.
All right.
And
Well,
so that,
thrown off when it said DuPage County Fairgrounds parking lot. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Member Eckhoff. Member Ozag?
The clerk's office had applied to the Illinois Election Board for this money. So it's specifically to aid our early election efforts that are held in the south end of in the buildings at the south end of the fairgrounds. So it will be that area that will be repaved. So, and I don't believe there's any new areas paved, so there won't be new parking, but it will be paved parking, which will be a great improvement over the current gravel situation, especially in the rain. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Member Ozak and Mayor Eckhoff for your comments. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Pachowski?
Thank you. Move to DTR 0132-22 and awarding resolution to Siebert Landscaping for the 2022-2023 various highway landscaping program for an estimated county cost of $293,675 per low bid.
Okay, I have a motion by Member Pachowski, a second by Member Rutledge. Any discussion? Member Rutledge?
Thank you, Chair. I just have some questions about, I could not find any information in the packet about what this all encompasses. Is this maintenance of landscape after road projects have come through? Are we back to cutting turf? I just want a little more information about what this money is being spent on.
Chris, are you on? Or
I'm still on.
I don't know. Can you help us with this?
Sure, of course. So there's actually two contracts. So you'll see the next one is also for landscaping. So this first one is for new landscaping. So if a tree dies, we take it out, we plant a new one. So this is shrubbery and sod and things like that. And some of it, the planting will be done following a roadway project. Then we'll come in and do the landscaping under this contract. So this is for new plantings. The next contract below this will be for maintenance. And that's going to be, weeding, edging, mulching, herbicides, and things like that. None of these two contracts have anything to do with mowing. This is all preserving, maintaining our public rights of way, parkways, medians, et cetera.
So the mowing contracts will come later?
Correct.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Member Rutledge. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Pachowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to approve DTR 0133-22 and awarding resolution to Siebert Landscaping for the 2022-2023 Highway Vegetative Maintenance Program for an estimated county cost of $295,947.70 per low bid.
I have a motion by member Pachowski, a second by member Desart, and member Zay.
Yeah, a question, Chris, do we get to pick the mulch, like what color, like that bright red, or we use like a neutral color in all these sites?
You know, I'm thinking it's the standard brown mulch. So we can have it colored anything you want, members A.
Oh, that's fine, thank you.
Thank you, member Zay. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
DuPage County Blue.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Pachowski.
Thank you. And finally, my last item, move to approve DTR 0134-22 and awarding
Second.
resolution to Superior Road striping for the 2022 pavement marking maintenance program for an estimated county cost of $496,982.36 per low bid.
Okay, I have a motion by member Pachowski, a second by member Ozog. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Pachowski. We move on to finance resolutions, and I will call on member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to combine and approve items A through F. These are all additional appropriations.
A motion by member Zay, a second by member Renahan to combine items A through F under finance resolutions. Any discussion? Oh, I thought member Renahan second. Okay. Did you second? Oh, yeah. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Member
Thank you,
Zay.
Madam Chair. I move on FIR 2622 additional appropriation neutral site custody exchange on $47,370. Move on FIR 13522 acceptance appropriation PACE grant for countywide transportation projects amount $200,000. Move on FIR 13622 acceptance appropriation 48th year community development block grant amount of $9,206,093. Move on FIR 13722 acceptance appropriation 31st year home investment partnership amount of $6,655,658. Move on FIR 13822 accept an appropriation of 34th year emergency solutions grant amount of $525,615. And I move on FIR 14022 acceptance appropriation additional funding 47th year community development block grant amount of accounting units move from $9,713,895 to $9,801 and $396, increase $87,501.
I have a motion by member Zay, a second by member Renahan. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, those items pass. Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Move on FIR 14222, issue of payments to DuPage County training providers for Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Development, the amount of $192,752.
I have a motion by member Zay, a second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Move on FIR 14322, acceptance appropriation, Illinois Department of Commerce, Economic Development, National Dislocated Work Career Grant, the amount of $400,365.
I have a motion by member Zay, a second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Move on FIR 14422, acceptance appropriation, additional funding, time extension, Illinois Department of Commerce, Economic Development, dislocated work disaster relief grant, the amount of $104,152.
Okay, I have a motion by member Zay, a second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Move on FIR 15122, revision to personnel budget, community service.
I have a motion by member Zay, a second by member Renahan. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member
Thank
Zay.
you, Madam Chair. Move on FIR 15322, revision to personnel budget, community service.
I have a motion by member Zay, a second by member Renahan. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Move on FIR 152, intergovernmental agreement to the County of DuPage and the Village of Addison for ACDC Center to provide 211 services amount of $190,218.
I I have a motion by member Zay, a second by member Renahan, or second by member Swarzy. Discussion. Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Move on FIR 15522, authorization transfer $27,444 in the budget Information Technology Department for fiscal year 2022.
I have a motion by member Zay, a second by member Selman. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Zay. We move on to informational items, and I will call on member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to receive and place on file A, payment of claims, B, wire transfers, and C, appointments.
I have a motion by member Zay to receive and place on file items A, B, and C under informational. And I'm sorry, who was the seconder? Member Selman. Okay, we have a motion by member Zay, a second by member Selman. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Zay. So we move on to old business, and we have the discussion of the county precinct maps. So on February 28th, we received a memo from Chairman Cronin regarding the election precinct maps. So I sent you all the memo from Chairman Cronin, and I sent you the election omnibus bill, which clearly directs the county board to divide its election precincts, which in 60 days of the legislation being signed. And we know that didn't happen. So I'm seeking input from the board or the committee as how we are going to fulfill our statutory duty. So do we have any comments on that? Yes, member Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd first like to start off with a comment from the chairman's letter. He stated, secondly, the clerk's office has the primary responsibility to draw new precinct boundaries. And I want to make it clear that that is not the clerk's responsibility. Every pages 52 and 53, I believe, of the statute put this responsibility on the county board. And it's very important for us to realize that the clerk did draw these maps, as was stated to us, in a nonpartisan fashion. I'm talking about the first map that was presented to us. And these precincts did reach the threshold of 1,200 per precinct. And that is what is called for the legislation that was, I believe, signed November 24th, 2021. So I want to make clear that this is not the clerk's responsibility. It is our responsibility. And in order to be in compliance, we do need to approve precinct maps. And I would personally like to see us approve the first map that was brought to us from the clerk's office. The clerk did this as a courtesy to us because the clerk has the facilities, the map making, et cetera. But I think that it was done in a fair fashion and nonpartisan fashion, and that until we've approved a precinct map that fits this legislation, we are not in compliance with what the legislation calls for. So I think we need to move forward with this, and this calls for us to do this, if not within 60 days of the November 24th legislation, to do it in June. I also believe that we do not have to put this into effect until after this election. So in that regard, it will not impact any of the current people running for precinct committeemen, et cetera. So there's no impact on the clerk or the ability to do the next two elections. So I think it's our responsibility, and I know it's our responsibility, as I had said before. So we are not in compliance with what the legislation called for. And also remind the board that for 2 years in our legislative agenda, we did call for increasing the size of precincts. And so this legislation is the result of what we had looked for. And we need to fulfill our legislative, our statutory responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, member Ozog. I have member Pachowski and then member Zay. Member Pachowski.
You know, in my opinion, this was done extremely late, and if the clerk didn't have the statutory authority to draw the maps, she shouldn't do the maps then. And, you know, I think in people I've talked to, they've already circulated petitions. They already had stuff run out for committeemen. And if the clerk did me a favor, the favor should have been bringing me to the table beforehand, not throwing what was a nonpartisan map at us, because the committeemen I've talked to liked what they had before. And I think making it bigger doesn't make it better. And I think it should have been the county board as a special committee, not the clerk drawing any map that affects our precinct committees.
Thank you, member Pachowski. Member Zay, and then member Selman, and then member Dessert. Member Zay, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I have to just wonder what has changed since we had this discussion the last time. And if the clerk didn't have the responsibility to do this, then why didn't she tell us? I mean, I think there's been discussions, and I know Member Eckhoff asked to have other board members involved in discussions with the clerk's office and the state's attorney. I talked to Member Chavez, she's not here. I think we need to have a presentation from the state's attorney's office to tell us what our statutory authority actually is, because nothing's changed in my mind. And the fact that we want to actually do a map that we declined and do it now and not have it go into effect until after an election is ridiculous, because now that would be an old map. We have a new election coming in November. New people will be registering to vote. New developments and housing projects will be made. Those maps will be obsolete. Why would we wait until the following election 2 years later to implement a map? There's no reason we can't wait until 2023 to do that. And hopefully the state's attorney will tell us we can do that. But to do a map now is kind of ridiculous. And again, I'm just going to be blunt. The clerk blew it. It's a Democratic clerk. You have a democratically controlled board. They couldn't get the map through. There was no nonpartisan, bipartisan, any kind of effort. And there still continues not to be, because she hasn't reached out to anybody. Member Eckhoff reached out to the Republican side. What was discussions on this, and still hasn't been. So nothing's changed in our eyes. To do it now, we've already missed that window. People circulated, but again, if we're going to do a map that's going to take in 2023, when would that election be for the following 2024 election? I mean, when would that map take effect? So let's get the state's attorney in here, or the clerk's special assistant state's attorney who handles elections, and let's find out exactly what our options are on doing a map before we just make bold statements that this is our authority and this and that. Because last time I checked, we don't have access to voter records and to everything else. And I think for good reason. You don't want a county board that's a political arm going into the elections and doing that. So let's get the state's attorney to come in and give us a presentation in the next month and see what we can do.
Thank you, Member Zay. Member Selman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had the opportunity to speak with Bob Berlin last week with some other members who had some sort of similar concerns to Member Zay, that we weren't quite sure what has changed and why this would be back on our agenda. And so what I spoke with the chairman also to make sure we could follow up from the special call we had, whether we haven't really gotten a lot of follow up from that meeting. Bob Berlin has agreed on the April 12th, and he's reached out to Pat Bond, and we'll reach out to the clerk's office to have a presentation at the county board meeting so we can get all the questions answered from the special call a few months ago. Ask Bob Berlin and Pat Bond any questions we have and move forward with a proper plan then, rather than speculating on whether or not we've met the law. Bob Berlin has made it quite clear we've met the law. The law gives us multiple ways to consider this. We're following that. So I would encourage everyone, if you've got questions between now and the 12th, either get them to the state's attorney, Pat Bond, or the clerk, so that they can have the most robust presentation and answer all of the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Selman. I have Member Desart, and then Member Ozog, and then Member Garcia. Member Desart.
Yeah, I don't disagree with Member Puchalski. I've said this before, that, the work should have been done by this board. But in early February, I met with Cheryl Marquet, Lisa Smith, Bob Berlin, Pat Bond, Clerk Kasmerick, Nick Hotmeyer, Adam Johnson, to talk about the path forward. I mean, I don't want to waste our time talking about what has happened. I just want to give optimistic, credible ideas on what to do to move forward. And I think that I appreciate Member Selman's initiative to bring in the state's attorney April 12th, hear what he has to say, work on this through May, and then vote on the maps. June, we only have 2 meetings in June, so June 12th or June 28th would be the time that we vote. So it's a very short window, but we've been looking at this for several months now, and been paying attention for several months. And I think that's the best plan forward. That if we have that presentation during our April 12th meeting for the state's attorney, that the best path forward is to focus on this. A little piece of every meeting, of every county board meeting after this could be getting input from the public, and whomever you wish to get input from the outside entities, and then be able to vote on this by June 12th or by June 28th at the latest. So, I mean, that's just my opinion. I don't want to talk about or rehash what happened in the past. I'm just trying to give an optimistic idea of how we move forward for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Dessert, Member Ozog, and then Member Garcia.
I just want to I'm going to point out that the clerk did not blow it. This is the county board's responsibility. And I want to make it clear that, let's see, on November 16th, we received an email from Cheryl Marquet that the omnibus bill that authorizes the Forest Preserve and authorizes direct selection authorities to draw new precincts within 60 days was signed late yesterday, has an effective date of November 15th, 2021. So we were aware of this. And I distinctly remember Mr. Zay when we were meeting to make the county board map discussing precincts at some point. We did not discuss that as part of our responsibilities. And frankly, I believe that's where this should have been discussed. It should have been part of the board or the remapping process because we knew this was coming. And this email is dated 11/16/21. And you can see on a video from, I believe, the legislative committee in November, there was discussion that the precinct map was going to be our responsibility. And instead, the discussion that day went right to the Forest Preserve map. There was not a single word said about this map. So we knew this was coming. Everybody was informed. This was not the clerk's responsibility. They do have access to the voting information, but it was our responsibility to see that this got done. And we do know that it was done in a nonpartisan way. So there was no reason that we really couldn't have approved the map that was presented to us in January. And we need to, I think, definitely have Mr. Berlin come in and make a presentation, but this was not the clerk's responsibility. It is our responsibility. And frankly, we blew it. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Ozog. I have Member Garcia, Member Renahan, and then Member Buchowski. Go ahead, Member Garcia.
All right, thank you, Chairman, Chaplain. You know, I'm agreeing with Member Ozog that, you know, it's frustrating to hear we're pointing fingers at our clerk's staff and office who did a fantastic job. Quite honestly, with the time that they had to make the maps, this again wasn't their job. It should have been done here at the county board, but they did what they could with the time they had during the time of a pandemic, during the time of holidays, when people were sick or out because of holidays or because of COVID. And the maps that they provided actually fit all the state criteria that they were given, and they were totally nonpartisan. So I think we have to stop pointing fingers at the clerk's office and just start taking some responsibility here at the county board level. I do appreciate Member Selman reaching out to State's Attorney Berlin. I'm looking forward to his presentation because I am not an attorney, and so I'm looking forward to what he can bring here to the county board, because what I'm reading, you know, the Public Act 102-0668, to me, it says we have till June to get this done. So to me, that is an end-all date that get this done. So if he has another way of looking at it, I would love to hear that. Otherwise, I feel like our job is to get it done by June. And if we can make it wait till, you know, the end of the election season, which I think we can, then let's do that. But we have to get the job done that's been given to us as the county board. And so I think we have to stop pointing fingers and just do the work that we're supposed to do. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Garcia. Member Renahan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we're all a little bit frustrated here, but I think we're kind of really on the same page in terms of wanting to get the state's attorney in here to give us the, you know, the translation, if you will. In my view, it's the legislation that's the problem, not whether the clerk jumped in or the board didn't do something right. I think we have a poor piece of legislation and coming on the heels of the census that delayed our primary. So effectively, I mean, the legislation does give us the second chance, second bite at the apple to do this summer. So I think we're going to get it done. I'm feeling good. I like that we all want to hear from the state's attorney. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Member Renahan. Member Buchowski.
I think Chair Renahan made the right comment. I'm frustrated. And I'm frustrated because Springfield does so many things that are not in the best interest of DuPage, and we know how to run DuPage County. I don't need somebody in Springfield telling me I have to do something because they pass so many garbage bills like our criminal bill. And what if we decide that we want to keep it where it's at? What if we want smaller precincts? How is this enforced? What authority do they have to take me and say, you can't do what the voters want us to do. Because I talked to the people in my precinct and they still like a small precinct. They like it compacted. And again, it doesn't do us anything just by being a rubber stamp for what happens in Springfield. So we have to have some independence. We have to show that we are who we are. And we get tired of being beaten up because we're in a super minority. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Pachowski. Member Ozog.
Thank you. I'd also like to reiterate that we indeed did approve this in our legislative agenda for the last 2 years to increase the size of precincts. So I recommend that everybody reads the recommendations that we're going to be making, because I believe those were probably passed unanimously. So that was the will of this board. So Springfield, what they've done was something that we had said was okay. The other thing I want to point out is that the legislation does allow for the precinct size to be reevaluated every June. I think one of the things they discussed was if there's an annexation that occurs, there's construction of multifamily housing in a particular area that might change the population. The board does have that ability every June to change various precinct mapping as necessary. But I think we really need to, we were in favor of this and voted for it. So we can't blame Springfield for something that we wanted in the first place. So let's really pay attention to what happens in our legislative committee as well.
Thank you, Member Ozog. Any other discussion? Member Garcia and then Member Eckhoff.
Yeah, very quickly, looking at the facts here of the precinct committee persons who have actually just put in to actually be elected in the next election, they've actually been reduced. I know in my party, I haven't been paying attention to everybody, but I mean, so there is a reason why the precinct got larger, because we're having a hard time finding people who will cover them. And so we're actually trying to find precinct committeemen to actually do the work. So there is a reason why this was actually done down at the state level. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Eckhoff.
Really surprised we're talking about this again at this point in time when hasn't been any other presentation made to us. I'm trying to figure out how it's our responsibility, but the clerk took it upon herself to start drawing a map. I guess the state's attorney can come in and tell us that too. But if you remember, I asked the election attorney if the legislature, who seems to have been the impetus in getting this all done, could have passed the bill in the spring of 2021 instead of waiting until November of 2021. And he said yes. And I suspect that was only done because somebody in Springfield figured out it was another way to put clamps from Springfield on DuPage County and other counties. And they figured that out in November. If they figured it out in the spring of 2021, I'm sure they would have done it then. If it passed the legislative committee, which I'll take everybody's word for it, then I'm a little surprised that nothing started out of that committee. And I remember Mr. Tornatore saying that he was unaware that there had been some bill passed in November that required us to do something within 60 days. And I likewise was unaware of it until we started bringing it to the floor and had a 5-hour meeting about it. And now we're having another meeting about it with, from what I can see, nothing's changed. And I see the words, great job, bipartisan, all done, all thrown out here on the floor, and maybe that's correct. Maybe it's not. I had asked that the people who are involved, people from townships, both Republican and Democrat, be involved, and maybe they have been since our last meeting about this, but I don't know, because I haven't gotten a report on it. I've asked that the chairman of the parties be involved. If they've been involved, I don't know, because I haven't gotten a report on it. But here we are talking about it again today. Seems to me we should have had a report made. We should plan some time, probably at county board, not at finance, to go over this if we're going to review it again. But I think the players that are involved in this need to be done. If the state's attorney is going to make a report, please tell me if I'm responsible to do this or the county clerk is. And but I'm not sure that I disagree with the chairman's initial report that if we're going to put in effect, it shouldn't be until after the next election, because I don't see how you throw a map together in June and expect people to abide by it for the November election. I think that throws a lot of confusion into it.
Thank you, Member Eckhoff. Member Ozog.
again, we can make sure that Mr. Berlin clarifies that for us, but I do believe that it would not come into effect until, or not be in effect until afterwards. But I really want to point out, this email was dated 11/16/21, and I want to thank Cheryl Marquet for the wonderful job she does of keeping us up to date on everything that is going on legislatively that impacts us. And this email was clearly sent to everybody on the 16th. The omnibus bill was passed, effective date November 15th. Thanks, Cheryl. And here is the full text, the bill, all kinds of links to the various parts of the bill, its entire history, which started started in 2/23/21. It was first filed. So we all knew that this was coming. And I do distinctly remember the word precinct being discussed during our discussions about the county board map. So again, we knew. And if you didn't see this, or you didn't see that, I recommend that we all really look at every one of Cheryl's emails very carefully, because she does a wonderful job. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Member Ozag. So yeah, and just to close a little bit on this, I believe the reason the legislation was put forward, and it was initiated by the county clerks throughout the state. And what they're seeing is, with early voting and mail-in voting, less voting on election day. So in order to save money, if I'm right, Cheryl, yes, she's shaking her head. So in order to save money for counties, we wanted to, the county clerks said, let's increase the size of our precincts. This has nothing to do with precinct committeemen, nor should it. It is not about precinct committeemen. It is not about the parties. It's about our voters. This should not be done in a partisan manner, and we shouldn't be talking about precinct committeemen during this discussion. So that's one thing I want to make clear. Secondly, the reason why I put this under discussion. Oh, I'm sorry, members. Let me finish first, and then I'll let you go. The reason I put this on the agenda for discussion is because when we met with State's Attorney Bob Berlin, he indicated that our next opportunity to take a look at these maps were going to be in June of this year. So I wanted to bring it forward. I didn't see anybody else taking initiative on this. So I thought somebody has to take an initiative to get this done. So I thought, let's get the feel from the committee as to what we wanted, where we want to go. If the committee wants to revisit this in June, fine. If we don't want to revisit it in June, fine. I mean, it's just our next opportunity. So that's why I wanted to get a little direction. But I would look forward. I'm glad to see that the state's attorney will be coming to a county board meeting to discuss this. And also, Member Pachowski, you made a great point that a county committee, I think, should have been created. And if you look at how other counties did it, their counties did create committees to do this. So, like I said, maybe with all the late timing of it and the confusion, and we did ask for the legislation to be done. And I agree, it is not the best worded legislation. So it was our intent to have these increase, but like I said, maybe the legislation wasn't written the best way that it could be. So I am going to share Member Renahan's optimism, and I hope that we do get this done. And we would definitely, if we were to do this in June, we would definitely have to date it in effective of June of 23, because we can't disenfranchise people that just voted for their precinct committeemen and others. So those are my comments. And Member Desart, would you like to add anything else?
Yeah, I just want to add a couple of things. Number one, Member Pachowski is talking about the legislation from Springfield making us do things that we may not want to do. But as the legislative committee took on this issue, we did think that it was a good idea to save taxpayer dollars by making the precincts larger. So this did come out of DuPage County's legislative committee. Secondly, Springfield does this all the time. I served on the Indian Prairie District 204 Board of Education for 4 years, and we had unfunded mandates all the time that when they passed the legislation, we as a school district had to do what they asked. So that's what happens with the state legislature. They do that all the time. And lastly, I just want to put this in perspective that I'm not sure how many people this actually affects, because I looked in my my township, Naperville Township, and there are only 33 Democrats who turned in paperwork to be precinct committee people. Only 33 Democrats and only 23 Republicans turned in paperwork this past March to serve as precinct committee people. So we're not actually talking about that many people. And that's it. Thank you, Chair Chap.
Thank you so much. So members A, go ahead, please.
You know, the thing that concerns me is you say, it seems like only a small group wants to go forward. It seems like my colleagues and the people that voted against this map were pretty well set on, we voted against the map. So it seems like a minority of people want to bring this forward. So again, when you say there's been discussions and you've met with staff, again, there's been no bipartisan effort to do this, to talk to the people who actually voted against the map and see if we could enfranchise them to move forward. That hasn't been brought forward at this point. And again, our colleagues, it can be looked at in June. It can be looked at, hopefully when the state's attorney tells us, it can be looked at in June next year.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
what we understand on our side. And we agree with the chairman of the county board who sent the memo and said, kind of hard to do right now. We just went through this. Why would you make a map now that wouldn't go into effect till later after we have a major election coming? And that would obviously be an old map. Why would we move forward at that point? And so again, it seems like a small group of county board members that want to move forward. So hopefully after this presentation by the state's attorney, we can have a show of hands of moving forward or not moving forward and end this discussion as it should be done at this
Right.
point.
No, thank you. Members A, you're absolutely right. I believe we do have this June to look at it, and then the following June, and then the following June. So no, you're absolutely right. I just want to get a sense of the committee if they want to move forward or not, because if we do want to move forward, we have to act quickly. So member Ozag, member Desart, and I think we're going to wrap it up.
Thank you. I'm now in my 12th year as an elected official in this county. And all three terms that I've taken an oath for, I've taken an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Illinois. This is now a statute, okay? And we are not in compliance. Now, I will certainly await to see Mr. Berlin's presentation, and I think that's a great idea, and hopefully we can schedule something in April for Mr. Berlin to come to us about this. But it was signed into law November 24th, 2021. And what was signed into law is that we are to increase our precinct size to 1,200 per precinct, or a close number to that. And you know, the chairman says in his letter that this was the clerk's responsibility. Again, I want to clarify that this was not the clerk's responsibility. It is clearly in the statute. That's the county board's responsibility. So personally, I would like to be able to continue to uphold my oath, which is to uphold the Constitution of the state of Illinois. This is a statute. I said this before at our long discussion, and we need to comply. And I'll await Mr. Berlin's presentation, but until then, we are out of compliance with the state law. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call on member Tornatori because he hasn't spoken yet, and then I'll go to member Desart. So member Tornatori, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Unfortunately, this discussion has turned into a political discussion, and I expect nothing less from legislation that comes from Springfield. And I'm going to be consistent. I don't really think politics should enter into what we discuss legislatively at the county board. I will commend member Ozag for being on top of this. And I do agree with member Desart, Monahan, Sullivan, Pachowski, and Zay. I am optimistic. I want to see member Berlin and member Rockoff too. I don't want to leave you out, Grant. But I do have some serious concerns when a member of this county board, being member Ozag, definitively states that we are not in compliance when we don't know if we're in compliance. We have not been told specifically by our lawyers that we're not in compliance, and it's still a subject matter for debate, including a memorandum from the chairman, who I presume came up with this memorandum based on some legal opinion that he got from somebody. That's number one. Number two, whether or not it's the clerk's responsibility or not, the clerk took this on. I'm not going to criticize the clerk, but once again, I don't think that it's, you know, member Ozak stating it's not this, it's not that, as if there's some magical opinion that makes what she says fact isn't in fact. And I respect what she's saying, and I respect the fact that she's done the research, but I took an oath too. I'm in my 20th year as an elected official. I don't think I violated an oath when I voted not to do this. And the suggestion that I did is insulting to me and anybody else who voted on this one way or the other. So what I would suggest all of us is to refrain from making legal opinions fact to suggest that somehow we have violated the law when in fact we have not. When State's Attorney Berlin comes and tells us what the options are, and Mr. Bond does, certainly if we're told we've got to do this to be in compliance, I'll be the first to do it. But don't tell me I'm in violation because you think we are. It's an insult to anybody and everybody on this board. And quite frankly, I'm offended by it. So let's move on. I share Member Renahan's optimism. Let's do what we need to do. Let's talk to the state's attorney, and then let's make the decision at that point and move on with the business that we were elected to do.
Thank you, Member Tornatori. And then Member Desart.
I think we should end the conversation there.
Great.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Tornatore.
Thank you all so much. So thank you. So I look forward to discussing this in April in County Board with State's Attorney Berlin and Special State's Attorney Pat Bond. So thank you all so much. Do we have any, let me find my agenda now. Do we have any other items under old business? Okay, seeing none. Do we have any other items under new business? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Member Pachowski, second by Member Rutledge. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. We are adjourned.
Discussion of whether shall